are going to get started. Finish your lunches. Don't let us stop you from eating. We've got a couple people that'll probably straggle in here at the in the next probably couple minutes. But I've got a few housekeeping things that I want to go over. So welcome. I'm Shannon. I am the executive director here at the Byron Center Chamber of Commerce. If you turn and look at the back of the room, this is Denise eating. She is new to our chamber team. For those of you that know Donna, she's not going anywhere right now. She's going to officially retire when I'm done with her because we have to get her trained. So Donna will still be around periodically. First, I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming. This is one of 5 events that we'll be putting on throughout the year that are totally free to our members. So stay tuned. You'll see some other things coming up on the website that you can attend with speakers. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for this luncheon. I would like to thank our hosting sponsor, which is World Renew, and I will introduce Bob in just a minute here. Also, Apple Spice for sponsoring our lunch today, and BCTV for capturing the speaker and being able to list it locally on television. I would like to thank Jennifer Koch for coming on board as our speaker today and taking time out of her schedule. A few things. For those of you that have been following our website, we went through a migration onto a new platform. If you have been following us on Facebook, you've probably seen different posts regarding that. If you're not following us on Facebook, please do. Please check out our posts, like them, share them, the whole 9 yards. There are some new features on the website that will allow you to help gain extra traction for your business, so be sure to check those out. Our golf outing is scheduled for Monday, July 21st at Railside. So for those of you that typically participate in the golf outing, just a few things. We are at 60-some golfers right now, and it's only April. We will sell out. So if you're like, hey, we're not really sure, you may be, hey, shoot, I missed the time frame and I can't participate, because at some point I have to turn people away because we max out at about 180 golfers for this event. Railside, it's at Railside again this year. I brought some flyers and registration forms. These are also on our website, so you can actually download them and print them on the website. This is the only event that we don't allow you to sign up for online, specifically just because there's a lot of details involved in it, and some of our strategic partners get golf included in their packages, so we just don't want to have to be reimbursing members. Let's see here, what else? I think that's all I had for housekeeping purposes. Real quick, one last thing. Our friends at Atlas, they are hosting a local blood drive. So if you are interested in donating blood, and if you are a person that is willing to do that, their blood drive is on Tuesday, April 29th from 9 until 2:45, and they still have slots available for that. So you can also find that information on our website. Last but not least, I would like to introduce Bob Decker. So when I got here, I asked Bob, what is your actual title? He's like, I don't know. Let me look at my business card. Bob is truly like the jack of all trades here at World Renew. Bob and I met about 3 years ago. And I came and toured the building just when they opened and thought this would be a great space for me to host some chamber events. And they were really open to the idea. And it's just a really cool place. Chamber people would like to work here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not leaving the chamber, but it is a cool space. We appreciate you allowing us to use this space. They donate the space for us to use, so we're super grateful for that. And Bob is going to, at the end, for anybody that does have time to stick around, if you want to tour the facility, he would be happy to show you around. But he's going to take a few minutes and talk to you about World Renew.
Yeah, thank you. I will take very few minutes because I know you want to hear from Jennifer because she's got all the good stuff to say. But I do want to welcome you officially to, I think most accurately to say, a part of World Renew. World Renew was started as the Christian Reformed World Relief Committee about 62 years ago in response primarily to two things. Some flooding in the Netherlands, which is sort of at the roots, the location of where the Christian Reformed Church denomination came from, and also the refugee crisis coming out of the Korean War. And it was really a few local groups of deacons that were wanting to respond to that and learned quickly that their voice was bigger when they worked together. And that was where the local, we'll say, CRWRC was formed, but then changed the name to World Renew about 12 years ago to better reflect who we are currently and the direction that we'll head. World Renew was here in Byron Center, but also has a sort of a sister office in Burlington, Ontario, and then regional offices in probably 17 different countries around the world. Currently working with 30-ish partners globally in areas of community health and economic development, some gender justice stuff. We have a domestic and international disaster component. The domestic team works primarily in long-range disaster response, so we're not first responders, but we're almost always the last leaders in an area. It's not uncommon for us to be working with uninsured and underinsured 3, 4, 5 years after disaster, and quite honestly, they are now coming more quickly than we can even keep up, so it's not uncommon for us to be still working in a regional area and having another disaster hit already. So the Disaster Response Services team, and if any of you want to stay, I'll give you a tour of their facility, works significantly with volunteer resources. So if anybody is all interested in exploring the option of getting to a disaster response site for, there are some 1 week options, there's some 3 week options, there's some longer options. If that's of any interest to you, stay after and I'll put you in touch with the people that you need to talk to. I think that's really all that I need to say at this point. If anybody has any immediate questions, I will take them now, but again, assuming you're all chewing and eager to hear from Jennifer, I'll be around when you're done and would welcome the chance to visit. So, but until then, God bless you all, and thanks for coming to World Renew.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next up, I would like to welcome Jennifer Koch. Jennifer is a veteran business consultant who started her first business 2 days before giving birth to her second child, turned it around in the middle of a recession, and then sold the company for a profit after growing it into a national brand. She makes her experience an asset for owners looking for the next wave in their business journey. She is the founder of Next Wave Business Coaching, where she helps existing businesses uncover hidden opportunities for revenue and profits by developing a business strategy for them to gain focus, clarity, and a roadmap to get results to build a sustainable business. Please welcome Jennifer Koch.
Thank you. Wow, you made me sound really good.
Well, I'm good at that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It's really nice to meet some new faces and see some familiar faces. And I got to meet Megan, who I've talked to on the phone, but never met in person. So I always love that. So today, what I want to talk about, I guess, first of all, how many of you have capacity for more customers or more clients? However, consumers, customers, clients, whatever you want to call them. Most of us? Awesome. So today I want to talk about how we can simplify that, because it's exhausting. Does anybody feel a little exhausted, like you're just out there all the time, posting on social, networking, going everywhere, and we're just chasing? Well, there's a reason for that. There's some things happening in our world right now that the reason for that. And so today I want to share with you what I do with my clients that helps them attract more customers to help you not be chasing. So let's first of all talk about why it feels so hard to attract people right now. It's this digital world that we live in. The latest statistics are telling us that customers are exposed to 10,000 messages a day. You know, between your phone and your being on the internet and just everywhere you go, 10,000 messages. So you are one of 10,000 messages. The other statistics that are interesting, it used to be, I'm not going to date myself, but it used to be if you said your message 7 times, a customer would remember you. Then it was 16 times. Well, the statistic for 2025, it's up to 40. I mean, we are just inundated with so much information just being blasted at us. And then on top of that, what that's doing is this overload of, we are thinking 60,000 thoughts a day as humans. And that used to be a lower number too. So no wonder it's really hard to stand out, be remembered, and have customers find you. And then on top of that, most of us are on social media, which we should be. It's a great tool. But you have 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention on social media when they're scrolling. That's it, 3 seconds. And then I always say, it's, like I said, social media is great. We need it. It's a tool. But, what if or when TikTok gets banned? Or what if Facebook or Instagram go down? I've talked to business owners where Instagram went down for 45 minutes about, 90 days ago. And it was a panic because most of their business was built on Instagram. So what are some options for us? I always say there's a better, simpler way, and I'm all about it. Let's be better. Let's be simpler. So let's talk about what our customers, our consumers, clients, however you refer them, what's going on with them. Well, first of all, they lack trust with what they read and hear. We can thank our news media for that, right? A lot of times we're not quite sure, is that fake news? Is that real news? And frankly, we just have decision fatigue. We have so many options that what happens is we become analysis paralysis, and then we just decide not to do anything at all, not to purchase, not to buy, not to invest. And we really are craving authenticity in relationships like this in here today. Everything's been so online, and now we're kind of ready for that in-person, that authentic relationships. And people don't want to be sold to anymore. It's almost like sales, the word sales. We're all selling. I mean, I have to sell my kids to pick up their shoes when they were little, right? We're all selling, but we don't like to use that word anymore. People feel like, oh, I'm getting sold to. Is that legit? So what can we do? So the strategy is attracting customers, and there's 3 ways to do that. We have to become an expert. Be known as an expert in your industry, in your world. You need to become a leader in your community. And I know a lot of times when people hear that word, they're like, well, I'm not going to go be the mayor of my town. That's not what I mean by being a leader. You need to be known, a leader in your little world, and you have to speak to a micro audience. We have to find your pool of people. So there's a couple of ways to do this. But first of all, I want to talk about what this means. So expert. Expert means you are the subject matter. You are the master of a particular subject. Leader means you have influence. A lot of times, what do you think of when you hear of the word influencer?
Makeup artist.
Yeah, makeup artist. Sometimes it can feel a little negative. How about the guy, the Beast, who made like $1 billion last year, influencing us to be crazy and take risks. But what do? We watch them. We're all about watching what they're up to. So how can you be an influencer in your world? And then micro audience. Basically, micro audience is a small pool of people. It's taking your billions of people out there in the world that can be a consumer and finding your small niche, if you will, micro audience. The quote, when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, is a popular quote for a reason, and it cannot be more true today because of the digital noise that we live in. So when I talk to small business owners or people in sales, there's a pushback every single time about choosing a micro audience, about really being an expert, about being a leader. This is what I hear all the time. It feels counterintuitive. If I talk to less people, how am I going to grow? Well, I'm just getting started, so I'm going to help everybody. I got to help everybody, because if I don't, I'll never get any sales. And I work with a lot of creative entrepreneurs. These are people that are interior designers or photographers, or they're our right brain people, right? And they'll say, well, I'm going to get bored if I work with the same person. If I choose a micro audience and that's all I serve, I'm going to get bored. I'm not saying that just because you market and become an expert in something and choose a micro audience, that's all you have to do. So that's not what the point of it is. It's just getting out there with your marketing messaging that's going to attract people. And then, of course, how do I choose? So today I'm going to walk you through the framework that I use with my customers to help them choose. There's 3 steps. So step 1 is choosing an industry. Now with these 3 steps, you don't have to nail all 3 steps. I always say if you can pick one of them, start there. If you can do 2 or 3, great. So I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, I got to do all 3 of these. No, we're trying to do less. That adds stress. But what I do want you to, as you're sitting here, is be open-minded. Think about your day, think about your customers, think about the people you interact with, and just be a little open-minded to, could that work for me? So let's start with choose an industry, and I'm going to give you a couple examples. This was a photographer that came to me, and she was exhausted. She was burned out. She had kind of plateaued in her business, and she just wasn't really sure what she wanted to do anymore. She was doing babies and families and, was tired of working weekends and all that. So after talking with her, she had a flair for interior design. That was just something that excited her. It was a personal passion. So she chose to be a real estate photographer. She chose the industry of real estate. Well, what happened is she 4 times her revenue in 1 year. All of a sudden, she knew who to market to. She knew the lingo to talk. And not only did she 4 times her revenue, she saved herself a ton of time because she wasn't going to every networking event in town. She was picking very strategic places where she knew realtors were hanging out. So that's one example of choosing an industry. Another one is a marketing agency. A marketing agency. She does everything from, social media, websites, email marketing. And she decided to focus on national uniform companies. Well, what happened? Her sales have rocketed because now that's what she does. And she goes to 1 trade show a year, not 5. It's the National Uniform Trade Show in Las Vegas or wherever they hold it. And she has a captivated audience because she is specializing in that industry. That doesn't mean she doesn't have other clients. Yes, she has HVAC clients and financial advisor clients and other clients, but it just means her specialty when it comes to marketing her business is uniform companies. And then let me give you one more. This is more service-based, an accountant. She was at a place where, as an accountant, it's her solo business, right? So she thought, what can I do to kind of manage my growth in a way, but also still grow? Well, she had a heart for health and wellness businesses, so she positioned herself as the CPA to help the chiropractors and the estheticians and businesses like that. Well, what happens is now, because she's a solo entrepreneur, she had a wait list to work with her. She was able to raise her prices, and now she's hiring other CPAs and high-level people to help her in her business. So that is the power of choosing an industry and marketing yourself to that industry. So when you think about your individual businesses and where your place of work, could that work for you? Could you find an industry that, A, I've already got some clients in it, so I could just go a little deeper, or I'm kind of excited about that industry, okay? So let's talk about the second strategy. This is what I call subject matter. And this one to me is really fun. This is where you become a thought leader. This is where you share your unique point of view. This is where you share your passion or purpose. There could be 5 financial planners in this room. You all do it a little differently. You all have your own take on it, your own thoughts on it. You all have your own passion or purpose on it. Could you dive into that to market yourself? So for instance, for me, I love working with business owners that haven't reached 5 years yet. Why? Because it saddens me and it angers me that only 1 out of 2 small businesses make it to the 5-year mark. That is our true statistic. And I know what people go through to start a business. And so that's my passion. I want to help them when they get stuck, get to year 5. So I get angry about it. And that's something too that you can be a thought leader on. Is there something in your field or your industry that kind of irritates you? Go out there with that message. Can you attract more people into your world? So let me give you a few examples. A little bit about my backstory. I left corporate America because I wanted more freedom and flexibility, and I opened up Cookies by Design. It's still open at Ivan Rust and 44th. And yes, 2 days later, delivered my second daughter. That was not part of my business plan, and I would never recommend that. And anyway, we weathered it. And then I was in business about 10 years when the recession of 08 and 09 happened. And things were humming along pretty well, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And at that time, there was the trend of, anybody a foodie, like the Food Network had a show called Cupcake Wars. Anyone familiar with Cupcake Wars? You know, kind of the old start of reality TV, where these bakers would come in and create these really cool concoctions, and then the chefs would come in and, you know, rip them apart. Well, it's 08, 09, and I'm watching my business dry up because of the recession, and I thought, you know what, there's nobody in town doing cupcakes, just your grocery store. We're gonna do cupcakes. We have a bakery, I have 10 employees, I have a lease. So we started cranking out cupcakes, and I will tell you the recession of 2008, 2009 was the best thing that ever happened to my business, because I had to pivot, I had to step out of my comfort zone. We made Cupcake by Design. I ended up franchising that, and it's a national brand out there today. And I ended up owning those businesses, kind of 2 brands under one roof, for 20 years and sold them in 2018. And now I'm into the business coaching. And this is my family. I just have to show my family because, you know, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the support of them. And I am a grandma now. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter and one on the way in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to be busy. So what did I do when I owned Cookies by Design? My background was sales and marketing. And so I became a thought leader in gifting, because I couldn't wait for people just to walk in the door and buy a cupcake or a cookie. We weren't going to survive that way. So I went out and networked and taught people like yourselves why you need to send client gifts, why you need employee gifts. You know, my blogs were all about that. I became the gifting expert. And what that did for me is it attracted what I called the backdoor business, all the business that went out the back door, delivery. And it attracted brands like this, that I knew every month they were going to order from us. Well, I'll tell you, as a business owner, you sleep better at night when you have some recurring revenue coming in. And so I took the position, my thought leadership was gifting expert. I wasn't a cookie person, I wasn't a cupcake person, I was a gifting expert. Let me give you a couple other examples. This is an interior designer. She started her business, and of course there's a lot of interior designers out there, and she decided to be a thought leader in kitchen remodels. Does that mean she does only kitchen remodels? No, she does bedrooms and bathrooms and everything else, but she goes out there and educates people on what you need in your kitchen. And so that was her thought leadership. That was her unique point of view that attracted so many people. She is a 7-figure business in less than 5 years. Another example is a professional home organizer. Same thing. She was trying to get more clients, and she was struggling to get people's to get people to attracted to her, and why do I need you kind of thing. So she went for the kitchen pantry angle. All her marketing was about how you save time cooking dinner when your pantry's organized, how you save money. You know, she decided to work with moms who had young kids, and so everything was about being a thought leader on an organized kitchen pantry and how that's going to make your life so much easier. And what that did for her is it increased her profit by 50% because she was able to create packages. She was able to price properly. So when you choose a lane or choose a thought leadership, these are some of the doors that can open to you. One more example, I was working with a pet supply business in Minnesota. Well, nobody wants to walk their dogs in Minnesota in January, February, probably March, April, May for that matter. And so she thought, what can I do? I got to get people in. So she started teaching people how to play with their dog. She did videos, she did blogs, she did articles, she sent emails. And it was all about being a thought leader on, I'm going to teach you how to play with your bored dog in January. And it was silly little things like hide and seek and all these fun things. And what happened was, then she started selling more products for that. Like, I've got this hide and seek package, and it's all these unique treats, and here's how you do it. And, you know, most of us are probably thinking, okay, yeah, any of us could do that, but are we? Unless you think about it, unless somebody shares it with you. So this became her perspective, and it helped her increase her gross profit margin because her inventory, she was able to manage her inventory better. Okay, let me talk about strategy number 3. So far we've talked about, does an industry make sense? How do you be a thought leader? Strategy number 3 is what we hear a lot, ideal audience, person, or group. So what do we mean by that? This is being a little bit more specific on the person. So this is an example of a financial counselor. She would help people with their finances so they could eventually buy their first home. Well, it was hard to fill her workshops. People didn't really get what she did. So she decided to just target people that had a credit score of 670 or lower. So then she would get them into her workshops and teach them how to raise that up. And what's interesting about this approach is how do you go find more of these people? Because most people aren't out on the street like, hey, my credit score is 670, how about you? She networked with bankers, home mortgage people, and the furniture people. You know how when you go into the furniture and they try to sell you the buy now, pay 12 months later? She networked with those people because she could specifically say to them, hey, I work with people that have a credit score of 670. If ever you have anyone in here who needs a sectional, send them my way. So, you know, because she chose an ideal client. This gal started her hair salon and was just trying to get more people in it. She started it, had a few stylists. Well, she loved women with curly hair. She loved working with curly hair. She had all the tips and tricks and the products. So she just talked about curly hair. She went on social media. She went to networking events and said, oh yeah, do you know anybody with curly hair? Because now she had an expertise. She had an ideal client. Does that mean she doesn't cut the little kids' hair? Yeah, she still does that too. She still does the lady with the straight hair. But this was her way of attracting people into her world. And then my last example is a real estate agent. I think we all know a real estate agent, at least one, right? Well, this gal decided she was going to focus on helping senior citizens. She always jokes that she spends a lot of time having cups of tea. But this helped her establish her career and her referrals. And she knows exactly where to go. She goes to like senior seminars and she networks with wealth, you know, people that are in wealth, financial advisors. And then the other thing about it is, guess what? These people have kids who also need a home. So it's not that she's only helping senior citizens move, but by using that is how she's attracting people into her. So when you think about these three areas, are there any that stand out to you? And I want you to think of it this way. You know, a lot of times we go to these things, what do we say? You know, hi, I'm Jennifer. You know, oh, what do you do? And we have our elevator pitch, if you will, right? Our 30-second elevator pitch. And it's usually I help, or, you know, I'm so-and-so and this is what I do. Well, what if your elevator pitch was more of a I help, a very specific, insert that specific, with something very specific again, and what are the results they get? I call this the pass the face test. When you go to these things, your elevator pitch, does it pass the face test? So what do I mean by that? If I meet you and you say, I'm a realtor, I'm going to go, oh, great, you know, how long have you been doing that? I'm going to ask very general questions. If you say to me, I help first-time home buyers find their first home, what just happened in my mental contacts? I pictured a couple people I know who would be a potential first-time home buyer. You know, same with another example is you sell insurance. Well, let's say you sell health insurance. And I meet you at a thing and you say, yeah, I sell health insurance. Once again, I'm going to smile and nod. But if you said to me, I help small business owners with 10 employees or less, okay, now I got something to work with. It's what I call pass the face test. And next time you go to a networking thing and everybody stands up and gives their pitch, I want you to just listen. How many of those people are passing the face test? It's hard because we don't think of it that way. But I'm going to challenge you to think of it that way. And how can you clarify what you say so a face comes to the mind? Because here's what happens when you do that. You become referable. And I'll tell you, when you have a referable business or you know, if you're in sales, it's a heck of a lot easier when people come to you versus having to dance on TikTok, create fun reels to stop the scroll, you know, and try to network everywhere in town. Because here's what happens when you're referable. 71% of referred leads become clients. Because earlier we talked about what do customers need? They need trust. So if you send me somebody, your somebody already thinks, oh, Cheryl knows that person. So I've gone up. I've gone from cold to at least I'm somewhat warm, right? So they trust you. So 71% of referred leads become customers or clients. The other thing is it increases customer retention because now you can really speak to them. So this gal that's teaching people how to play with their dogs, that customer is going to keep going back to her It's going to increase your customer retention. And customer acquisition is costly. It's 8 times more to get a new client than it is to get your current clients to buy more from you. So you're not only attracting people in through referrals, you're going to improve your marketing because now your blogs, your emails, your social media, your website, it can all speak somebody's language. And if you're speaking directly to me, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to get curious and I'm going to want to learn more. So that real estate photographer, not only did she go up 4 times, but she said to me, I've saved over 5 hours a week because I used to be afraid to not show up at places. Has anyone ever felt that? Sometimes you look at all the things we can go to, and you think, oh my gosh, I got to show up at everything because otherwise I'm not going to get a client. Well, now she can be so targeted. And then what she does is she makes connections with these referral partners. I call them your strategic referral partners. These are mortgage lenders. Now know she does real estate photography. Women in real estate, she can attend those conferences only. So she's saving time, targeting her message, so she's being remembered, and growing her business. For me, when I first opened up the cookie business, I was going to everything. The Women's Expo. I think we passed out 5,000 samples at that sucker. Has anyone ever been to that down at DeVos Place? Everybody wants something free. Yeah, we passed out samples galore. And, I was going to all those things. Well, once I started to be a thought leadership in just corporate gifting, guess what? I was able to say no confidently. So I showed up at trade shows that were business to business. And I confidently could say, no, I'm not going to do that consumer show. And I networked with human resource professionals. And I networked with administrative assistants because they were usually the ones that are making the decision. So see how much simpler it just got to get more clients? And then I can talk their lingo and talk their language, right? And when it comes to referrals, when people are so crystal clear on what you do, there's your first degree of connections, the people that you know, well then those people know other people too. So when they're out and about and they hear somebody say, yeah, my kids are really struggling, they're trying to buy a house and their credit scores, I don't know their kids personally, but I can say, oh, I know somebody who helps people with financial counseling. So now we got legs. We got arms and legs to our business. We got other people out there networking for us because they're so crystal clear on what you do. And then the beauty of it is it naturally improves your customer service. It just happens without you even knowing it's happening. In today's world, customer service is now calling customer experience. Customers want to feel the experience. They want to be felt, which means they want to be seen, they want to be valued, they want to be heard. Well, now you can pour into their needs specifically. So if you are, let's say, a financial advisor, and you choose an ideal customer of newer advisors or newer investors. So these are, I want to work with newly married couples that are been married 5 years or less. Well, guess what? You can now really talk about their pain points. You can research and listen to them and really, pour into them and create packages for them. And then you show up authentically because you care, because it lines up with your passion or purpose. You start building relationships, you help others succeed, and it also builds your confidence. There's nothing more confidently than standing up at a networking thing and being so clear and specific on who you are and what you do versus kind of bumbling through it, which we've all been there. Trust me, we've all done it. And this way people know who I am and they get it. So my quote is, stop being everyone's cup of tea and instead be someone's shot of whiskey. Because if you've ever had a shot of whiskey, you remember it. So what am I doing today? Well, I help creative entrepreneurs, small business owners, that's my industry. I help them, they're usually 5 years or less, that's kind of my ideal client. And I focus on 3 things. How do we boost your revenue? That's great. Improve your profit so you can pay yourself more. And do it in a way that is less stressful. I call it the earn more, stress less. And I'm happy to say my clients go on to double-digit growth following this strategy. This is one piece of what I do. And also, I'm a podcast host. I would invite you to listen, Main Street Podcast. And what I love to do is I love to interview small business owners because I think when we share our stories, and kind of collaborate together is how we learn. And so if anyone knows anyone that would like to be a guest, I would love to invite you on to Main Street, and where we talk about your business. And then the other thing I have for you, this is a freebie. This is called 3 Keys to Growing a Profitable Business. So if you want to download that, this talks a lot about what I talked about today and just kind of the steps that you can take to help you become profitable. So that, I want to leave you with this idea of think about your business, think about what you do. Does an industry, talking to a specific industry, make sense? Or is there something, a thought leadership, your unique perspective? Every single one of us has a unique perspective on why we do what we do or how we serve our clients. Or do you have an ideal audience? Can you walk away today thinking, I'm going to just kind of marinate and focus on 1? Can you do 2? Can you do 3? If you can do 3, that's a real home run. You're going to be very specific about who you serve and how you help them. So I'm going to encourage you to kind of think about it, and feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk through anything. And also, I think we have time, don't we, Shannon, to open up questions? So if anybody wants to kind of brainstorm or toss anything out, or if anyone is doing this now, I'd also love to hear how it's working for you.
I just recently discovered what I feel that's going to be like my purpose in income protection. So I feel that that's my main focus. That was just recently kind of just brought up,
Yes.
because I can do pretty much anything within finance, and so which can get very.
So you can choose the lane of income protection and really pour into that and share what that means for people. And so then when you're out and about networking, that's like something that's very memorable.
Yes.
So awesome. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys for your attention today, and feel free to reach out, and I hope that you walk away with a nugget that's going to help you with your marketing to be found. So thank you.